Have you ever seen a wrestler fight himself? Before his hardcore match with Hardcore Holly, Al Snow wanted to show how tough he was. When no one agreed to fight him, Al decided he would do something nobody had ever done and have a match against himself. Al Snow used an assortment of weapons and even went through a table. Fans wouldn't learn until years later that Al Snow was actually hitting John Cena with a moonsault. Usually, it's the wrestlers who take off their shirts. However, during one episode of Raw, a bunch of fans started showing off more than they should have. At SummerSlam in 2004, Randy Orton defeated Chris Benoit and became the youngest world champion in WWE at the age of 24. The next night on Raw, the Legend Killer was basking in his glory and decided to have some fun at the fans' expense. Randy Orton asked all the 24-year-old men in attendance to remove their shirts, and they did.
That is disturbing.
If only Orton would have asked the female fans to do the same thing. This is the strangest match in WWE history. After Damian Priest and Bad Bunny defeat The Miz and John Morrison at WrestleMania 37, the A-lister wanted some payback. This led to a Lumberjack match between The Miz and Damian at WrestleMania Backlash. However, the Lumberjacks weren't your typical wrestling Lumberjacks. Instead of wrestlers, an army of zombies surrounded the ring. The zombies, though, weren't interested in throwing either man back into the ring. This actually caused The Miz to hide under the squared circle at one point. Eventually, the undead got their hands on Priest and Miz, forcing the two to team up and mow down the dead men. Unfortunately, one stipulation of this unique match was that the loser would get eaten alive, which is what happened to The Miz after being defeated by Damian Priest. What's up with Triple H's voice? You don't usually see wrestlers use guns in WWE, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. On SmackDown in 2004, The Big Show was wrestling a match with Kurt Angle. Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns gained up on the Giant, but Big Show held his own. That was until Angle shot him. Luckily, it was a tranquilizer dart, so Big Show was only out temporarily. However, this still gave Kurt Angle enough time to give the world's largest athlete a haircut. Raw Roulette gave fans a lot of unique matches, but just remember, uniqueness doesn't always mean good. In 2003, Hurricane and Rosie found themselves in a Capture the Midget match.
Eric, midget isn't a very politically correct term.
The goal was to be the first person to capture the little person, Fernando. Hurricane and Rosie ran all over the arena, but it was all for nothing. Jim Ross ended up winning the match after Fernando jumped on his lap. Cage matches are usually pretty awesome. I say usually though, because someone somehow found a way to make a boring cage match. In the 1970s, WWE Hall of Famer Chief Jay Strongbow fought Don Kent in a shark cage match. The match was just like a steel cage match. The first wrestler to escape the cage won. Unlike a steel cage match though, the shark cage was much smaller. Making the match even worse was that the door kept opening. A good way to describe this match is wanting Hell in a Cell but being told there's already Hell in a Cell at home. Making it even sadder was that Chief Jay Strongbow needed outside interference to win. What's amazing about Brock Lesnar is that he can hit his finisher, the F5, on just about any opponent. It doesn't matter how big they are, the Beast manhandles people like it's nothing. However, to promote SummerSlam, Lesnar did something no one expected. As a group of terrified beachgoers ran away from the water, Lesnar dove in and pulled out a shark. Not only that, but Brock gave the giant fish an F5. There were a lot of weird moments during the pandemic era in WWE. One of the most bizarre though was when the Street Profits fought the Viking Raiders. It started out pretty normal, with the two brawling all over the WWE Performance Center. Things started to get weird when the two teams had to become partners when a gang of ninjas, led by Akira Tozawa, attacked them. The Profits and the Raiders escaped and then fell into a dumpster. But that wasn't the strangest part. The weird part was when they were attacked by a trash monster. Normally, it's the fans who can't see John Cena, but on a December 2005 episode of Raw, it was John Cena who couldn't see the fans. During his reign as WWE Champion, Cena fought Daivari in a You Can't See Me match. It was just like a regular match, but the twist was that Cena couldn't see a thing. This led to some crazy moments, like when John Cena nearly knocked out the referee. Daivari taunted and played around, but it ultimately cost Daivari as Cena used the fans to point him in the right direction and win the match. On Raw, Stephanie McMahon was running her mouth until she she got cut off by Chris Jericho. Jericho made several comments, including that Steph had been with everyone on the planet. Therefore, it was time to find a new species for Stephanie. Chris Jericho's choice? 2 apes from the Planet of the Apes movie. Stephanie McMahon, though, did not go bananas for the primates, but did get a pie to the face. That was weird, but not as weird as when Big Josh walked to the ring with 2 real live bears. We've seen teenagers wrestle in WWE and even win championships. However, there's only been one time that a child wrestled in a WWE match and won a title. In 2018, Braun Strowman won a match that earned him a match against the Raw Tag Team Champions, Sheamus and Cesaro, at WrestleMania 34. The only problem was that Braun didn't have a tag team partner. The Monster Among Men decided to ask the WrestleMania crowd if someone wanted to be his tag team partner. Strowman then pulled out a kid named Nicholas, who's only 10 years old. Despite having a partner who hadn't hit puberty yet, Braun won the match. This was the first time a child had won a match at WrestleMania, and the first time a kid had been a champion in WWE. This one isn't just weird, but creepy and kind of uncomfortable knowing what would happen. In 2005, Triple H competed in a match against Chris Benoit. During the fight, Triple H hit Benoit in the back of the head. Chris Benoit went to the outside and started shaking while making an odd face, almost as if the move did real damage. Of course, this is just Benoit selling the move, but it's kind of disturbing to watch, knowing what would happen 2 years later. Alright, watch this next clip and tell me if it's disgusting or satisfying. When Jillian Hall made her WWE debut, the thing that stood out about her was the giant mole on the side of her face. It was all anyone could look at, but staring wasn't enough for one person. Hall worked as JBL's fixer, and the two would start butting heads with the Boogeyman. Boogeyman terrorized the two, and it was usually Jillian Hall who got the worst of it. This all came to a head with Boogeyman butting off Jillian's mole and then eating it. Is it weird if I want to know what it tasted like? In the 90s, WWE hosted a series of pay-per-views called In Your House. However, not a single match actually took place in a house. Years later though, WWE would rectify this. In 2009, tensions between Randy Orton and Triple H were at an all-time high, heading into their WrestleMania 25 match. However, things crossed the line when the King of Kings did this. During an episode of Raw, Orton gave a live interview from his home. While Triple H was supposed to be at Raw, he never showed up. As it turned out, the game had actually taken a trip to St. Louis, Missouri to meet up with Randy Orton. Triple H broke into Orton's home and terrorized his family. The game and the Viper brawled throughout the house, ending with Orton going through a window. In the end, Triple H was arrested, but this is literally WWE in your house. You'll either think this next clip is the coolest thing you've ever seen, or the stupidest. While backstage, Carlito was trying to teach Hornswoggle a lesson. The leprechaun was trapped, but luckily, he had a plan to escape. Swoggle pulled out a can of spray paint and made himself a door. What's even crazier is that it actually worked. And what's even crazier than that is that Carlito tried to use the door too, and it went as well as you would expect. There's only one word to describe this whole thing. Damn! We've seen wrestlers hit their finishers on tables, onto chairs, off ladders, and just about anything you can imagine. However, I'll bet you've never seen a finisher done like this. On an October 1999 episode of Raw, The Rock and Mankind fought the British Bulldog and Val Venus. I guess because one of their opponents was named after a canine, The Rock had a tray of dog doo-doo brought out to the ring. The match ultimately ended in a no contest, but there was definitely a winner and a loser. The Brahma Bull brought the tray into the ring and gave Bulldog a rock bottom onto the dog poo. As they say, anything can happen in WWE. We've seen some pretty weird prizes wagered in WWE matches. Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero famously fought in a ladder match with the custody papers for an 8-year-old Dominic Mysterio hanging above the ring. Nikki and Brie Bella also competed in a match where the loser had to be the winner's servant for a month. However, the weirdest and most disgusting thing ever wagered in a WWE match was an eyeball. In 2020, Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio had been feuding after Rollins injured Rey's eye. Logically, Mysterio decided to challenge Seth to an eye for an eye match. Just as it sounds, the only way to win was to gouge out your opponent's eye. I told you it was disgusting. Rey Mysterio unfortunately lost that match, and even Seth couldn't stomach it. Now you have to see this match to believe it. In 1992, fans witnessed the first and only Bungee match. Chaz Taylor and Stephen Dane fought 175 feet in the air, with the goal being to throw the other person off the platform. It was actually a pretty cool idea, but the problem was fans couldn't really see the action, and even if they could, there wasn't much space up there for the wrestlers to fight. The match ended with Stephen Dane being thrown off the platform, giving Chaz Taylor the distinction as the first and only Bungee match winner. Question: how do you have a wrestling match on a moving truck? To see how, watch the video on screen.